former Executive Director of United Nations Women, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, will host the third 2030 reading panel in Johannesburg on Tuesday. It seeks to increase the number of children who are able to read for meaning by the age of 10 by 2030. We speak to one of the panelists, Elinor Sisulu, the founder and Executive Director of Puku Children's Literature Foundation. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time this morning. Perhaps you can give us more detail in terms of this panel, how it came to be and why.
Yes, good morning. The 2030 reading panel is the third year in existence and was an initiative of Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka after she retired from the UN and came back home. She's an educator by training, and she was concerned, as we all are, with these devastating figures on the numbers of children that can read in the country, which according to the Pearls report is 80% can't read for meaning. And whether one disputes that or not, it's still a dire situation. And South Africa has had the biggest deterioration during the COVID period in reading outcomes. So the purpose of the panel is how do we change this? What kind of interventions do we need? What does government need to do? What is government doing it? What is working? What isn't working? And what are the possibilities for change?
All right. Maybe we can expand on that, because there is quite a concerning one-liner in your statement which reads, on our current trajectory, it will take South Africa 86 years to reach all children reading for meaning by the year 2108. And so, given this particular statistic, it's quite a mammoth task. How to correct this, or at least reverse it?
Yes, it requires dramatic and urgent intervention. Hence the coming together of the reading panel and putting our minds together. I think also it includes a much more inclusive conversation throughout our society in all languages, a conversation that transcends political divides, regional divides, focuses on communities around the country. I'm really excited that this year we have Ivo Gomes, who is a Brazilian politician. He was a mayor of a town called Sobral in Brazil. And he, in his municipality, when he was mayor, he managed to dramatically improve reading outcomes through a set of interventions, which have been cited around the world, in studies around the world, as an example. And at least we have him here this year, and we'll be learning from him and hearing from him what was done in Brazil, and just reflecting on what we can do, interrogating what we can do here in South Africa.
What is the understanding of the panel of the situation on the ground? Perhaps maybe when we speak of hotspot areas, right? Are there areas that are of particular concern to you, where there's no access to libraries for children, where children's caregivers are working and there's no opportunity for them to then engage with children to read or help them read, or the neighbors are also children themselves? And so what is the understanding of the situation on the ground as well?
Yes, well, clearly it's the public schools, the non-fee paying schools, the working class and rural communities that struggle most. And so that's where the focus has to be, improving access to books. And I think our understanding is no different. Department of Education has identified these issues: learner-teacher support material, access to books, training of teachers, and it is in these most rural, remote, working class areas that struggle the most. And I think we look at issues like budget, expenditure per child, and of course in some communities the situation can be quite dramatic. There was a recent report of one community where there was no access to a library and high school kids were accessing Wi-Fi at a local tavern. Now clearly those are kind of the kind of things that need urgent interventions. There is a campaign, the Right to Read campaign, that is looking at these particular instances. And I think that the reading panel, the reports show that these are the major areas. And it's around the country. There's particular provinces, I think Eastern Cape, Limpopo, where the reading figures are, the figures on reading outcomes are quite problematic. So our focus this year will also be looking at provinces, which provinces where, are things working best and what are they doing? And the provinces that are lagging behind, what is it that can be done in those provinces?
Sisulu, the panel, this is your third year of existence. But if we're talking that on our current trajectory, it will take South Africa 86 years to reach all children reading for meaning by the year 2108. How do we measure the campaigns that have already been there? What is the understanding of the work that has been done by others, right? And so what is it that we seemingly are not getting right, where the figures are not going down dramatically at that? What is the understanding of the work that has already been done, but are we not managing to find the children, and why?
Yes, well, there is a lot of work being done, and there's a whole ecosystem. There's a literacy ecosystem, a host of organizations that are working on literacy, working on reading promotion, including Puku, the organization which I head. I think the main problem is, the level of investment. There's just not enough level of investment into this issue. Organizations involved in this work struggle. I think we need to have a whole lot more people employed in the sector. There's the issues of teachers, teacher retirements, availability of teachers. I think we know what kind of interventions work. The thing is, how do we make those interventions sustained? How do we make them large scale? How do we make them scalable? That's the problem that we face. And I would say that the main constraint is perhaps a lack of understanding and a lack of investment. Government has made the target of all children reading by 2030. It is possible to achieve that target with the right kind of sustained investment, evidence-led interventions, research, and different strategies. Personally, I feel radio is a really neglected resource in this whole discourse. I think it's possible through radio to achieve much more. Also the digital space, the use of the digital space and increasing digital access within our communities, and family and community-led interventions, large-scale and inclusive conversations nationally. I think these are the things that could make the difference and change that trajectory.
Sisulu, just a final question. When is it a curse? When is it a choice? More so when you take a look at this so-called cycle of poverty. When is it a curse? When is it a choice? I guess essentially, what is the intended, unintended consequence when you have a generation of children who are not able to read for meaning, those we are able to reach and those we are able to make an impact in their lives, when they fall through the cracks? What is the intended, unintended consequence when we speak of a cycle of poverty in South Africa?
It's an extremely dangerous situation because it means that you can't, we live in a knowledge economy where to access, to be fully participating in the global community, to successfully participate, you need knowledge, and you acquire knowledge mainly through reading. And if you can't read, then you are locked out of so much. Your chances of employment, we talk about, there's an expression in international discourse they call NEETs, which is youths not in employment not in education or employment and training. So this percentage of needs is growing in South Africa, and clearly it's going to continue growing unless we can address the reading crisis and the education crisis.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Elinor Sisulu, founder and executive director of Puku Children's Literature Foundation.